Welcome to our program. This month's theme is, You Are Precious to Jehovah.
Howdy heretics, and welcome to JW Broadcasting April 2020. And this month the theme is You're Precious in the Eyes of Jehovah. Thank you very much. Well, if I'm precious, who gave you the authority to shun me for something I didn't do? Anyway, this month we will also see 100% evidence that Watchtower are not using professional actors, if you ever wondered, and I can show you why, how we can know that. But this is a funny broadcasting, and if you didn't know this, that Watchtower Broadcasting is the monthly propaganda piece from Watchtower. Watchtower is the printing company that runs the Jehovah Witness religion. The religion is organized like a multi-level marketing scheme, like Tupperware, but with doomsday predictions. Anyway, so they do have a lot of, it's kind of well made in a particular way, but they do have a lot of propaganda cliches, like from last month, when you're not a Jehovah Witness, well then it's raining and it's messy and people are fighting, but when you're a Jehovah Witness, you're strolling in slow motion on a beach with your loved one at your side. So there's a lot of kind of propaganda cliches. So in order to make this less tedious, I have the propaganda bingo. So every time before I show a clip, you can guess what propaganda cliche or fallacy there will be, and you might get a point if you pick the right one. So for the first clip now, it will be a young Mexican boy that finds the truth and becomes a Jehovah Witness, and obviously he will live in a small, dirty Mexican house. And then when he becomes a Jehovah Witness or starting with a Jehovah Witness, the house will be better looking, it will be cleaner, the colors will be brighter. So for the first bingo, you get 3 options and you get 20 points for each. Will there be broken furniture when you're not a Jehovah Witness? You have broken furniture, but then when they become Jehovah Witnesses, the furniture magically fixes itself. Or will there be a broken mirror that magically fixes itself? Or will there be a small house that magically gets 10% bigger because this is shot in a studio? So, magically furniture, magic mirrors, or magic house sides. Pick the right one, and you get 30 points. And then in Watchtower propaganda, they will always say that I had many opportunities, but I left everything to serve Watchtower. So, what opportunities will this guy leave? Will there be a professional sporting career? Will there be a university education that he left? Or will it be a worldly woman that tempted him and he left her because he wanted to serve Jehovah, aka Watchtower? So that's also 30 points. If you can pick the right one, in both cases you'll get 60 points. And this is April, you need 90 points to meet the monthly requirement. So, let's roll the first clip.
When you are little, you just want to be happy. But sadly, my father had a problem with alcohol. And no child wants to live through that. One day, my family from the United States came to visit us. They looked so happy. The way they talked, it was as though they only had fun, a good life, no economic problems. I was shocked. I asked myself, how can we live in such poverty while their life is so great? That was the life I wanted for my family. So, when I was 9 years old, I left my mother and the rest of my family to cross the border into the United States. I lived in a pretty rough neighborhood. So I joined a local gym to learn how to defend myself. The trainer, Leo, he was like a father to me. He always tried to give us good advice. Raymond was part of the boxing team. He was a good friend. We got along really well. He respected me, and he looked after me. After several years of being around Raymond and the other members of the team, I felt really comfortable. To some extent, I admired him because I could see he was really doing well, because Raymond was selling drugs. I knew that it wasn't right, but in time, I began to sell drugs as well. Raymond was in a drug deal gone wrong, where he was murdered. I said to myself, this could happen to me too. It had been 6 years since I had seen my mom and my siblings. My mother was studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses. It helped her cope with a lot of suffering. It brought her peace. She was so happy. I began to realize that this was what I really needed. I also thought about my friends at the gym. I wanted them to understand why life was so hard for all of us. So, I returned to the United States. But they weren't interested. My trainer, Leo, told me I didn't need to sell drugs anymore. He could make me a professional boxer, and I could help out my family in that way. He even gave me a nickname, the Bible Boy. But I realized that was just a temporary solution. What I was learning was going to help forever. I was determined to serve Jehovah. I returned to Mexico. I started to study the Bible and take it seriously. I began to view Jehovah as my father because he helped me to find real relief from my pain, to have peace, a tranquility that makes you feel accepted, loved, and wanted. I have enjoyed an incredible life serving Jehovah. Decades later, my father was baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah has been so kind to me, my family, and my siblings. Truly, I have no way to repay Jehovah for the life he has given me.
So this family, they were living in a poor Mexican house, and it was kind of dirty. If you look at these pictures, stuff is broken, people are fighting. Look at the colors on the curtain. You know, there are even flowers on the curtain, and yellow looks more like gray, and everyone is fighting, and it's so terrible. And the mirror is broken. But when you become Jehovah's Witnesses, oh, the color is much nicer, and the mirror is no longer broken, and everyone is happy and nicer clothing, and it's basically wonderful. This is kind of obvious propaganda, and maybe you think that, no, Goatlike, you're just being overly critical. Maybe you don't know this. Maybe they were just shooting this in a normal Mexican house, and then the next week when they're going to shoot the rest, they had been cleaning because the elders said, we can't have this on the JW broadcasting, you have to clean it until we come back next week to shoot the next episode. Well, look careful on this picture. You see the video is moving from one room to another. You know? Unless the Smurfs are helping Watchtower shoot this video, I'm pretty sure that this is shot in a studio. That means that Watchtower built this studio, and they said, okay, now for the first scene, let's find some dirt, a broken mirror, bad lighting, and destroyed furniture. And then when they shoot the second one, let's put in some flowers, let's give the wall a nicer color. So you had to admit that this is classical propaganda. He starts his life in a dirty Mexican house with grey walls, broken furniture, broken mirrors, and the family's fighting. And then, when it ends, even the desert is gone. He's in a lush park with a beautiful woman, with a sign that says "Como tener una familia feliz." How to have a happy family. So, that's how you have a happy family. You give everything to Watchtower. Well, I think my uncle would disagree. He committed suicide while I was shunning him. It's not a happy family at all. So, but we're talking about this. Do Watchtower hire professional actors? Because if you're going to shoot a video about boxing, if you would call any agency and said, we would need 5 guys that are really pumped up, really big, you can basically get them for free. There's hundreds of people that want to be the next Arnold Schwarzenegger. And they might even do it for free, because even if it's cult propaganda, it's better to make a fool out of yourself than not being noticed. So, but they're only using Jehovah's Witnesses in good standing. And that's the key word, good standing. Because there's no rule against having a beard. But you can't have a beard if you're in good standing. And there's also no rule against working out and pumping iron, but you're not in good standing. So when they will make a video about professional boxing guys, they end up with scenes like this. Look at these pictures. None of them could have been professional boxers, but it's always a part of Watchtower propaganda that you leave something to serve Watchtower. They always say that, I had many opportunities, but I left it all to serve Jehovah, aka Watchtower, and I'm so happy. But look at this guy. You really think that this guy could be a professional boxer? Lifting weights, No. So it's easy to say that I abandoned everything for Watchtower. Well, he did. But he did not abandon a boxing career. But it's an important part of propaganda to constantly tell young children that you should not do anything for yourself. You should only do things for Watchtower, and maybe you end up with a happy family in a lush park. So if this would have been propaganda from North Korea, they would probably end it with making a very black and white narrative that the world outside North Korea, that's danger and disappointment, while back home in North Korea, we have meaning and purpose and happiness. I don't think Watchtower would stoop to that level.
Juan Pablo sought a better life, but that only led to danger and disappointment. Juan Pablo said it was Jehovah who gave him a life full of real meaning, purpose, and happiness.
Okay, I was wrong. Danger, disappointment, meaning, purpose, happiness. Got it.
As we mentioned, our theme for this month's program is, You Are Precious to Jehovah. How vital it is that we remind ourselves of that. Why?
So when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I would often have feelings of not being good enough, not being deserving of love. And this kind of run in the family. My parents used to tell me that no matter what you do, it's not good enough. We all deserve to die. Even mommy and daddy deserve to die. And in the meeting we would learn that we all deserve to die because 6,000 years ago, someone ate fruit. And Watchtower will always constantly ask you to do more, and tell you no matter what you do, you cannot repay Jehovah for what he done to you. And you think I'm just making this up? Just go back 5 minutes in this video and we had this.
Truly, I have no way to repay Jehovah for the life he has given me.
So Watchtower is constantly telling you that whatever you do, it's not good enough. Whatever you do, you cannot repay Jehovah. And therefore, Jehovah's Witnesses are often struggling with feeling of unworthiness. I knew I used to do that when I was a Jehovah's Witness. They feel unworthiness, they feel like because of past mistakes, no one can love me and stuff like that. And that's because of Watchtower. Watchtower is constantly reminding them of this ridiculous concept that God created the universe out of love, but he spends every day doing some kind of account work. Well, you delivered 5 magazines, you did 5 return visits, and you're auxiliary pioneering, and I created the universe. So it's a weird idea that imagine if you give a gift to a child, you don't expect anything in return. So Jehovah's Witnesses are often depressed. They are not God's happy people. They are often depressed, they are feeling unworthy, they have a high suicide rate, and we need an explanation to that. It wouldn't be a good propaganda video unless we mention the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses are depressed and blame someone else than Watchtower. So we need a small bingo here. You get 20 points if you can guess who they are blaming. Will they blame Satan, the apostates, or the congregants for committing thought crime?
We need to be reminded that we're precious to Jehovah is because of negative circumstances or events that have taken place in our life. Severe illness, advancing years, injustices, mistreatment, a difficult family life, or other situations may cause some brothers and sisters to feel that they're just not worth loving. Some may question why Jehovah allows those things to happen. Finally, we need reminders of how Jehovah feels about us because our imperfection can cause us to have negative thoughts. Some may still punish themselves for past mistakes, doubting that Jehovah has forgiven them or that He could ever love them. Others wage a constant battle against feelings of worthlessness. One witness wrote, "Satan has done an excellent job of making even those who love Jehovah feel worthless and unlovable. I never felt worthy of Jehovah's love, so I tried to do more and more in His service as a way of earning that love. So no matter how many hours I spent in the ministry or how many people I helped, I felt it was not enough." If you've experienced such feelings, you're not alone. So how can you be assured of Jehovah's interest? Let's examine 3 lines of evidence that prove you're precious to Jehovah. First, we'll examine Jehovah's feelings for the nation of Israel. Second, we'll reflect on an event recorded in the Gospels. And third, we'll consider a modern-day example of one who was very precious to God.
Good news, everybody, because the faithful and discreet slave have promised us evidence. Yes, evidence, finally. 3 lines of evidence that we are precious in the eyes of Jehovah. If they would have said faith, I would be okay with that because religious people don't need evidence. That's why it's called religion. But Watchtower said evidence, and I'm going to hold them to it. So the first line of evidence was his dealing with Israel, then the story from the gospel, and the third line of evidence is a dealing from modern time, a story from Denmark, or Greenland to be precisely, my neighbor country. So this will be fun, but maybe they will not provide evidence in all 3 cases, but let's say they will provide evidence for one. If you can pick the right one, you will get 10,000 million points. So the first one would be his dealings with Israel, a story from the gospel, and a story from Greenland. And you find the evidence, you get 10,000 million points.
By the end of the 16th century BCE, millions of Israelites were enslaved in Egypt, where they were severely oppressed. In their distress, the Israelites cried out to Jehovah. How did He feel? Turn with me to Isaiah chapter 63, verse 9. The A portion reads, "During all their distress, it was distressing to Him." Did you notice? Not only did Jehovah see their troubles, He felt for His people, and He was moved to act in their behalf. Isaiah chapter 63, verse 9 goes on to say, "In His love and compassion, He repurchased them." But what did Jehovah say to reassure the Israelites? "I would never forget you."
The first line of evidence that I am precious in the eyes of Jehovah would be Jehovah's dealing with the Israelites in Egypt. And that's really not evidence. First, we would have to assume that the story of Exodus is actually correct, which according to archaeology, it's not. But even if it were correct, the Israelites were enslaved for, I think it was 400 years. Can you imagine watching someone being enslaved for 400 years without doing anything? There's really no reason why he couldn't do anything. You can't come up with someone ate fruit. It doesn't apply to this thing. So he was watching them for 400 years. If this is a true story, it would prove that we're not precious in the eyes of Jehovah because he didn't do anything for 400 years. But so no points for this. But I'm kind of annoyed that the governing body always use the word evidence when they don't have any evidence. They could say faith. That would be an honorable thing to say, that I believe in something invisible that I cannot prove. But saying line of evidence is kind of disgraceful, I think.
As one of Jehovah's servants, you can be sure that he also loves you most tenderly. No matter what trials you're facing now or have endured in the past, Jehovah sees you and he feels for you. When you hurt, he hurts. You're far too precious to Jehovah for him to forget you. He remembers your past efforts and he sees your continuing efforts to please him. Your continuing efforts to please him. Your continuing efforts to please him.
Watchtower always do this. They link together Jehovah loves you, you're valuable in his eyes, with your ongoing effort to please him. And when Watchtower say ongoing efforts to please Jehovah, they mean ongoing efforts to please the governing body, building stuff, selling stuff, giving stuff to Watchtower. So they always do this. Jehovah loves you because of your ongoing effort and your sacrifice. And I have an idea. I will please Jehovah 400 years from now, because he's okay with that kind of time frames. So, win-win. So now we will talk about the next line of evidence, and I can tell you already now you're not getting any point because they're not giving any evidence at all. They say that we're precious in the eyes of Jehovah, and they will use, the widow that gave us 2 small coins. And in most religion, when they talk about this widow that gave 2 small coins, it's an example of appreciation, because she gave everything she had. But in Watchtower theology, it's more about that she gave everything she had, and that's why she was appreciated. And it wasn't good enough, but she gave everything we had, and so should we do. We should give everything we have, but it's never good enough. You can never repay Jehovah for all the good stuff he do. They do it all the time. So, but since you're not this is a terrible bingo. You know they will not give you any evidence, but you can look out for another fun thing, because maybe you know that Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't talk so much about Jesus. But when you read the Bible, you find out that there is a guy in the Bible called Jesus, and he's actually the main character in the New Testament. So every now and then, Watchtower managed to say that Jehovah is Jesus. And they will do it now. So see if you can catch this. Jehovah is Jesus.
A second example of how Jehovah feels about his faithful servants can be found in the Gospels. Let's read what happened on one occasion when Jesus was at the temple in Jerusalem at Luke chapter 21, verses 1 through 4. Now as he looked up, he saw the rich dropping their gifts into the treasury chests. Then he saw a needy widow drop in 2 small coins of very little value. And he said, "Truly I say to you that this poor widow put in more than they all did. For all of these put in gifts out of their surplus, but she, out of her want, or as the footnote says, poverty, put in all the means of living she had." Like that widow, You may find that circumstances limit what you can contribute to Jehovah. Age, infirmities, or other circumstances beyond your control may limit the amount of time you're able to spend in the ministry. You might feel that your efforts are like those 2 small coins, of very little value. Still, we learn from this account of the needy widow that Jehovah notices, and He treasures each act done for Him, especially when we do it despite difficult circumstances. For a moment, think back on your worship of Jehovah during the past year. Some of you may feel that you accomplished little. Your imperfect heart might cause you to wonder whether Jehovah was pleased with your efforts. However, did one of the hours you spent require a special sacrifice on your part? If Jehovah took notice of the widow dropping in those 2 coins and valued her contribution, don't you think He also noticed and values what you did for Him during that hour? Jehovah values every gift, no matter how small, that springs from a heart motivated by love. He remembers, and He'll reward even the smallest contribution given in support of His kingdom. That's proof of how Jehovah feels about you.
That's proof of how Jehovah feels about you. So the proof is that Jehovah feels something about me is that He's willing to accept cash or donation. And since He don't have a birth certificate, He can't have a bank account number, so it's just reasonable that we give the money to Watchtower. That's really not evidence of anything. He loves me because I'm giving Him cash. That's could be prostitution. It could be anything. No, this is really sad. So the first line of evidence was that Jehovah didn't save his pals for 400 years, but he would like a donation. The second was that what this poor widow gave wasn't good enough, but he wants it anyway. Also does not seem like a nice guy, I'm sorry to say that. They will now show us the third line of evidence, and this is actually John Cedars' neighbor, a nice old lady in Albania, and she was separated from the Jehovah's Witnesses for decades, and before she died she managed to be reunited with God's people, and this proves that Jehovah loves her. Well, I hope Jehovah loves her, but that's not the point. The point is the fact that she met Jehovah's Witnesses before she died doesn't prove anything. Because most people meet Jehovah's Witnesses before they die. Actually, no one meets Jehovah's Witnesses after they die. So it doesn't prove anything. But I want to show you anyway because it's a nice old lady, and I want you to notice the box ticking exercise. If you've been a Jehovah's Witness, you notice every time someone come to the truth, they go through the box ticking exercise to push the Watchtower brand, what's unique with our brand of Christianity. So they say, well, I asked my priest about hellfire. I asked him about the Trinity. I asked him about God's name. I asked him, why don't we go from door to door preaching like Jesus say we would? And the priest could not answer. And then I met the witnesses and everything was dandy. So that's pushing, if you're a true Christian, you have to be A, B, C, D, E. And then our favorite part of the Bible. And that's not unique to Jehovah's Witnesses. If you go to Seventh-day Adventists, they would say Saturdays and Sundays, that's what's important for them. Or if you would go to Mormon, they would say, we're the only one that have modern day prophecy, we're the only one going from door to door. Actually, Mormons say that too. We're the only one with tithing. So, but using this system, when a religion do that, unless you have A, B, C, D, E, we don't have to listen to you. That makes it really difficult to talk to them. If you're from another domination and you try to speak with Jehovah's Witnesses, you know what I'm talking about. Because if you show them a scripture that they cannot answer, and there's a lot of stuff they cannot answer, because they're only good with their favorite part of the Bible. So you're reading something from the Bible and they can't answer, they look at it and they say, do you believe in the Trinity? Yeah? Okay, well then I don't have to listen to any of your argument because you don't fit the box. And the same if you talk to a Mormon. Mormons believe that the Native Americans had steel, brass, horses, goats, and they were actually Jewish people that emigrated there. If you show, it's really easy to show a Mormon all the evidence that they did not have steel, they did not have brass, they did not have horses, they did not have goats, and they do not have today, we can test this, they do not have Jewish DNA. And a Mormon will just look at it and say, yeah, but you drink coffee, so... So, now there will be a Jehovah Witness box-ticking exercise.
Finally, let's consider a modern-day example of one who was very precious to Jehovah. It's the experience of Sister Areti Pina. Sister Pina lived on the southern coast of Albania in the town of Vlor. She was baptized in 1928 at the age of 18. There was a strong congregation in Vlor in the 1930s, and Sister Pina was a zealous evangelizer who climbed up and down rugged mountains, preaching with her Bible in hand. In time, a congregation no longer existed in Vlor, and Sister Pina lost contact with the brothers. Yet, she kept preaching faithfully on her own. Do you think her efforts went unnoticed by Jehovah? Well, years later, word reached the brothers that there was an old, senile woman who was reportedly preaching in Vlor. People thought she was crazy for keeping faith in God during years of totalitarian rule. Yet Sister Pina, now in her 80s, was anything but senile. When the brothers arrived at her home, Sister Pina invited them in, but she seemed somewhat reserved. When they explained that they were her spiritual brothers, she had no reaction. After a few minutes, Sister Pina started firing questions at the brothers. Do you believe in the Trinity? What is God's name? Do you believe in hellfire? What happens when we die? What about the earth? How many go to heaven? The brothers answered each question. Do you preach? She then asked. Yes, said one brother, we preach. But, she responded, how do you preach? We preach from house to house, replied the brother. Now I know that you are my brothers, she exclaimed. Only Jehovah's people preach from house to house. Through her tears, Sister Pina stated, Jehovah is wonderful. He never forgot me. Sometime later, the brothers were notified that Sister Pina was ill and that she wanted to meet with one of the responsible brothers. When he arrived, she asked in part, as she gasped for air, has the book of Revelation been fulfilled? The brother responded, yes, Areti, most of it has. Sister Pina said, now I can die in peace. I needed to know how close we are. Shortly after that conversation, Sister Pina faithfully finished her earthly course.
Has the revelation been fulfilled? Yes, sister, most of it has. Well, I don't really believe in the Watchtower mythology, but even if the Watchtower mythology was true, how can you say that most of it has been fulfilled? The Watchtower doomsday mythology from Revelation, it starts in 1914 and ends in the end of the millennium. So what has been fulfilled if, according to Watchtower? Well, in 1919, Rutherford and 2 others were elected by Jesus when Jesus came invisibly. That's been fulfilled, according to Watchtower, because it says that 2 witnesses were raised from the dead, and those 2 witnesses represented Rutherford and 7 others. So 1 plus 7 equals 2. So, and then it says that the witnesses could call down fire from the sky and stuff like that, and that had its fulfillment when they printed Watchtower literature. So the 2 witnesses and Watchtower literature, and then they had trumpet blasts, and that was a convention in Cedar Point, Ohio, or something like that. I don't care about the details anymore, but that's been fulfilled. But, you know, the beast with 7 heads and the scarlet blah blah blah, and United Nations. Nothing of that had been fulfilled. Armageddon haven't been fulfilled. How can you say that most of it has been fulfilled? With a straight face, even if the Jehovah's Witness mythology was true. And then she said, well, now I can die in peace. I actually believe they made this part up, because if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you know that when you're dead, you don't exist and you will just wake up in paradise. So it doesn't matter for her if it's fulfilled or not. It doesn't matter for her, according to the witness mythology, if she dies 1,000 years before Armageddon or 1 second before Armageddon. So I think they made this story up. Now we will see the story of Male Mørk. Male Mørk is a sister that lives on Greenland. Greenland is the biggest county in Denmark. And you see from the picture that her mother is Danish and her father is Greenlandish. And seems like a nice sister, but she grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and in this propaganda they say that it's the best gift you can have is to grow up a Jehovah's Witness. And her mother was disfellowshipped, her father was disfellowshipped, and eventually her father committed suicide. So it wasn't perfect, but somehow the fact that she survived and she's still giving everything she has to Watchtower proves that God loved her. It's really weird, it's really sad, I don't want to make fun of it. But seeing this from an ex-Jehovah's Witness perspective, it seems to me that her father was Pimo. And Jehovah's Witnesses do have a habit to say that the best help you can get is from the elders. But what the elders do, they always do victim blaming. So if someone commits suicide, they are selfish. And that's really not good. If someone's struggling, they should not go to psychiatrists, you should go to the elders. And the elders tell them, repeat to yourself, I'm an integrity keeper. I'm an integrity keeper. That's the worst thing you can do. So when you see this story, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, because when you say this to Jehovah's Witnesses, they say, well, it used to be like that, but we changed. Look at this story and see if they're still saying that the one that commits suicide is selfish.
My name is Malu Mørk. No one can imagine how much Jehovah has helped me. I was raised in Sisimiut in Greenland. My childhood was wonderful. We were very often out in nature. In the summer we sailed, and in the winter we rode dog sledge, and we went hunting and fishing. When I was a child, I was very close to my parents. I was a daddy's girl. He called me my beloved, so beloved became my nickname. It has been so wonderful to be raised in the truth. The greatest gift that I could get is to know Jehovah through them. When I was 9 years old, my parents got divorced. It was terrible. I saw how my siblings were hurt. It cannot be explained how, we were very wounded in our hearts. When my parents divorced, my father was disfellowshipped. It was very hard to be separated like that. I missed my dad a lot. When my mom started to drink, I also felt abandoned. Because I knew what she had been doing, I was not surprised when after some time she was disfellowshipped. But of course I felt very hurt and sad. I supplicated Jehovah to help me stay in the truth. The pioneer sister that studied with me helped me a lot. She studied with me, sometimes took me on the ministry, and invited me to dinner. When I was about 12 years old, my father came back into the truth. I was very happy that it finally happened. I began to have a good relationship with him again. We sailed a lot, drove snowmobile, and rode dog sledge, and my father and I watched movies in the evening. I remember that when my dad heard that I was going to be baptized, he shed a tear, and I could see he was proud. When I was 15 years old, my world fell to pieces. My father committed suicide. It's difficult to describe that my father was suddenly gone. I can't understand why he would do such a selfish thing. I missed him a lot. It was like my heart was stabbed. I was also very angry at him. I wrote a lot. And I wrote many letters to my father about things I wanted to tell him. I also cried out to Jehovah in long prayers. I love Psalm 34:18 about Jehovah being close to those who are crushed in spirit. That was how I felt, and the thought that Jehovah is close to them comforts me a lot. I also did all I could to go to all the meetings, even when I didn't want to see anyone. Even if I'd cried before the meeting, I went anyway. 1 month after my father's death, I got baptized. I got baptized because I loved Jehovah. When I was 9 years old, I had promised Jehovah to serve him for the rest of my life. My relationship with my mother is much better now. It is great to serve Jehovah together with her now. We preach together every Sunday, and I always look forward to going on the ministry together with her. When I was 18 years old, I began to help in the remote translation office. Later, I started pioneering. I have always learned a lot from King David. No matter what circumstance he faced, whether bad or good, he used them to draw close to Jehovah. Jehovah has helped me to overcome challenges through the congregation, giving me power beyond what is normal, taking me in as his daughter.
In this propaganda piece, they say that the best thing that can happen to a child is to grow up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But you see, it wasn't perfect in any way. Her mother was disfellowshipped, her father was disfellowshipped. That means she could not talk to her father, which she loved very much. And he came back to religion. Maybe he came back to religion just because he wanted contact with his daughter. You see, he came back and they used to go fishing and hunting and bobsledge and stuff and watch movies. She didn't say field service. So I'm pretty sure, I'm just guessing, but it sounds to me like he was Pimo. And what makes it really sad is that she said she will become a Jehovah's Witness. He cried and committed suicide. So obviously I'm not the authority of her life, so she knows what happened more than me. So we'll not speculate too much because it's a sad story, but in general, being a Jehovah's Witness comes with a lot of problems that are unique to Jehovah's Witnesses. There are some good stuff with being a Jehovah's Witness, but they are not unique. You can find them anywhere. But there's some bad stuff about being Jehovah's Witnesses, and they are unique. You cannot find them anywhere else. And she had a big run-in with the bad stuff. But she seemed like a nice sister. It's a nice area. I'd like to live there. They actually had a drive a few years ago while I still was going to meeting when they asked Norwegians to move to Greenland as need graters. And I was actually thinking about it because you can see that landscape. You can imagine how happy I would be there. But no, this is a sad story. But Greenland is the biggest county in Denmark. And you could see, obviously, her mother was Danish and her father was Greenlandish. So she grew up speaking both languages. And also, we have English in school in Scandinavia, so she also speaks English. And most Scandinavians speak English. I speak English, you understand what I'm saying. It's not perfect, but you understand it quite good. And I know she speaks English very well. You know why? Because she was working with translation. So, and still, they always do this, and this is so patronizing. Americans don't understand when they're doing it, but it's really patronizing when Watchtower do this. They want to show, make an image that, oh, we're this international brotherhood. So whenever you have someone from Greenland or Sweden, imagine if they would do an interview on me. I would say, okay, I can do that in English. No, you have to do it in Swedish. Then we turn down the volume, and someone in Brooklyn will do a voiceover in a very patronizing way, the way that Americans think that Swedish talk. They do a fake Greenland accent on top of her, and she speaks probably really good English. And if you watch this, there was only 3 sentences when she looked straight into the camera and spoke. The other time it was someone in the studio reading from a script. So you could actually, if she didn't feel comfortable talking to the camera, they could still just do her reading with her own voice in the script. Instead, they do a fake Greenlandish accent, complete with tears, and we're crying, and it's so terrible. It's so patronizing. Sometimes I know the people on broadcasting. I know they were interviewing, every time they interview someone from the branch committee, they speak perfect English or very good English because they go to all the classes. So they maybe spent a year in America on, education facilities. And still you see them talking Swedish and someone translating with an accent that sounds like a mix of Dutch and German and I don't know, Kermit the Frog. It's so patronizing. Now we will see a dramatization about a man that's going through a divorce. And it's obviously not a true story, but we go through all the Watchtower cliches. We start with, we assume that the other partner is the bad guy, the spouse is the bad guy, because she not only leaves him, but she also leaves Jehovah. And then we see that this poor brother, he's being tempted by a worldly woman, worldly. And he looks at her up and down, and then he rush out because worldly people, they are terrible. And then the elders, they are nice and they try to comfort him. And some elders are nice, but I would actually recommend not talking to them because they are not mental health professionals. They don't know about marital advice, and they do believe they have authority. And that's a very bad combination of counselor and authority person. That's really, really, really bad. But then we will see the solution to his problem. And could you guess, would it be to give more to Watchtower, give more to Watchtower, or give more to Watchtower?
I had no doubt our vows were forever. Nothing could have prepared me for the heartbreak. I never expected her to be unfaithful and unwilling to work things out. I felt humiliated. How could she do such a thing? I was embarrassed, and I didn't want to talk to anyone. I read somewhere that time would help me heal, and just to stay busy. It seemed to work, but I was constantly reminded of what I lost. Our spiritual goals, the hopes and dreams we had, all destroyed. I didn't want to dwell on the hurt. but I just couldn't ignore it. Was I really coping? Or was I leaving myself open to even more pain?
So, brothers and sisters, we're going to talk about marriage today. Now, if we turn to Ephesians chapter 5.
I was angry, but not just with Emily. I was angry with everything.
Steven. Hey, let me stop by tomorrow.
What I had to say, I wouldn't have blamed Tom for judging me, but he didn't.
You're right, Stephen. I can't understand how you feel. But you know who can. Do you remember Psalm 34? I think verse 18 says it best. Can you read it for us?
Jehovah is close to the brokenhearted. He saves those who are crushed in spirit.
Isn't that beautiful scripture? Take advantage of Jehovah being that close to you and include him in everything.
Jehovah is a loving shepherd. When we hurt, he cares. I knew this, but in a way, I'd forgotten. I realized I hadn't included Jehovah in the ways I tried to cope. Staying busy was important, but I needed to draw closer to God, not push away.
This was really hard.
And when I did, the real healing began. Even though the pain is still there, Jehovah sees the tears. Jehovah feels what I feel.
He seemed like a nice guy, and I kind of feel sorry for him, because the worst thing that happened to me in my life was that my wife left me. It's 2 years ago, but it's still sad because she left me for religion. Her own word, she left me for religion. And in this propaganda piece, they make it seem like Jehovah's Witnesses, all them answering to marital problems. And the solution will always be to give more to Watchtower. Go to the Watchtower meeting, take part in the Watchtower meeting, go to sell Watchtower literature, read Watchtower literature, and frolic with other Watchtower members. It's always about Watchtower. And you saw when he met a nice woman, she seems like a nice person, but it's run away, she's not Watchtower approved, run away, she's a terrible worldly person. So it's always about Watchtower, and that might be a good thing. It might be a good thing. If there's a couple and the elders come in and say, you have to do more Watchtower stuff together, well, that might save a marriage because they're doing stuff together. I acknowledge that. But on the other hand, let's say there's a happy couple that pick up fly fishing. So they're out by the fjord fishing salmon, and they're happy together. This is a very good thing. They're happy together, but in Jehovah land, this would be a problem. And the elders would have meetings and find out how can we take these people away from the fjord. And most likely, maybe they could get one of them to go back to the meetings, and we can use that person as leverage. So they would create a problem. Instead of two people being happy in the fjord, they're grown up, they want to be fishing, they will drag one of them back to the meeting. And if they don't manage to get two, they're happy with one. So you see these propaganda videos about one person leaving and the other one studying the Bible more than ever. I really don't like this propaganda because I remember I was a good witness, but at one point I stopped going to the meetings. I was still a nice person, but I remember they turned against my wife and tried to get her to leave me. And I remember one thing they always say, a talking point. They said, you are not leaving him. He left Jehovah. It's a weird way of saying you are not. They basically told her what to do. And I remember she come home from the meetings, often crying when she come home from the meetings. And once I said hello, and she said, "Stop persecuting me." And she said, "The elders have been encouraging me how to deal with persecution from family members," like in general, family members. And this does not help a marriage. And I don't want to say anything negative about her. She's a wonderful person. And there's a billion reasons why anyone should leave me. I literally smell like a goat. So. But if there are any witnesses watching this, and if you do have a problem, don't go to the elders for advice, because they might be nice people, but they see themselves as authority figures. So everything you say can and will be used against you. So please go to a real couple counseling, and don't be afraid to have some activities that's not Watchtower related. Wholesome entertainment for the whole family. So now Jehovah Witnesses have a very high level of single people, because there's 60% Jehovah Witnesses, sisters, and 40% brothers. Why would that happen in a perfect organization? I don't know. I have to ask Jehovah. But if you're a single sister, leaving it in Jehovah's hands obviously does not work. You can't lie about the statistic. So in this broadcast, they have this underlying message that, oh, you can always find people to marry in the truth. Here, it was a nice single available brother. All the sisters watching this can say, I could comfort him. And then we see the next piece now. There it's also a divorced lady, a sister, also solving the problem with giving more to Watchtower. And yeah, it's kind of sad. But that will be this month music video. So enjoy.
When I called yesterday, I could tell you lost your way. Be assured you are loved by our God up above. So do not fear. When you're broken, He is near. Trust in Jehovah, don't give in. Just let it go, roll it on Him. You're not alone, you can pray. He hears your words, He feels your pain. Don't keep that burden in. Roll it on Him, whoa. Roll it on Him, yeah. Roll it on Him.
So for copyright reason, I must do a break in the middle of the song. So that's what I'm doing now. And you see this, she wakes up in a bed all alone and she's depressed. So you kind of see that her husband probably left her and Jehovah. So that's the story. They talk to the elders, they will try to recruit new members to solve the problem. But what will they do more than this? So you get 3 options and you can get 30 hours points for this. Will she log on to the new jw.org dating app? Or will she apply for the school of Kingdom Evangelizer? Or will she look through a scrapbook with pictures of what she have done for Watchtower in the past? So 30 points if you pick the right one.
Trust in Jehovah, don't give in. Just let it go, roll it on Him. We're not alone, we can pray. He hears our words, He feels our pain. Don't keep that burden in. Roll it on Him, whoa. Roll it on Him, yeah. Roll it on Him, whoa.
Motivated reasoning is when you want to believe something and you will believe it even though the evidence point in the other directions. And now we will have a motivated reasoning marathon with a brother helper of the governing body. So it's how can we see Jehovah's hand? Sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't, but it's always there.
Sometimes I think all of us would agree that it's easy to see Jehovah's hand when things are going well, when we get a court victory, when someone's health improves, or maybe when someone really asks to come to study the Bible with us and they're at our meetings. But it's harder to see Jehovah's hand when we see bad things happen, either to us or our brothers and sisters. So we may wonder, how can we see Jehovah's hand when bad things are happening? Well, you can see my hand right now, right? But if I put it away, you can't see it. Now, do you assume because you can't see my hand that I don't have a hand anymore? And it's not, well, no, you reason on the fact that you see the rest of me and there's probably still my hand attached. So, likewise, there are times when it's easy to see Jehovah's hand, and there are other times when we have to reason on what we know about Jehovah in order to see his hand in action.
So according to this guy, when something's going good, it's proof that Jehovah is supporting us. When something's going bad, it's proof that Jehovah is supporting us. And Jehovah Witnesses are not the only ones doing that. I saw some Mormon apostle giving the exact same speech. But he said, we have to practice to see the Lord's hand. So he added an element of victim blaming. If you can't see your blessing, it's something wrong with you. But the blessing's there. It's called motivated reasoning. And I like to challenge both the Jehovah Witnesses and the Mormons. Because you believe in Jesus. Have you ever found anywhere in the Bible where disciples said this, like you say, that, well, sometimes it's difficult to see Jesus' miracles. Sometimes he makes wine, and it tastes like wine. It's red like wine. We drink it, and we get drunk. But sometimes he makes wine, and it looks like water, it tastes like water, and no one's getting drunk. Can you find that in the Bible? No. But the LDS Church and the JW Church, they have that problem, that sometimes we can see the miracle, and sometimes we can't see the miracle, but it's still a miracle. Well, in that case, I can come to Brooklyn and make wine out of water. You won't see it, but it will be there.
Every year, millions of people come together at our conventions to learn about Jehovah and encourage each other. What effect can receiving an invitation have on a person's life? Let's watch the following report.
I came to Greece as an immigrant when I was just 16 years old. Because of that, I never felt safe with people around me. When I arrived at the convention, I started watching the people. Their faces were smiley. They seemed to be happy. There were men, women, and children from different races and nationalities. When they sang, I could sense their true joy and unity. For the first time in my life, I felt very safe. I was not in fear of being taken advantage of. I started a Bible study and eventually I got baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Later on, I got married to a faithful sister, a very good wife, and we served Jehovah together.
In 2016, I received an invitation from my son to attend the convention of Jehovah's Witnesses. He was getting baptized at that convention, and it was important to him for me to be there, and so he asked me to go. Even though I was very active in another religion for 30 years, I went in order to please him. Arriving there at that convention, I observed the crowd, many people, starting right at the parking lot. Everything organized, people entering in an orderly manner. Inside the assembly hall, everyone was very organized, well-dressed, very loving. And when the convention began, I saw such spiritual food that I had never seen in my religion. 30 years in a religion, I thought I knew a lot, but I didn't know anything. So I decided to study. I decided to become one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I became one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I got baptized in 2017, and now I serve as a pioneer.
A 16-year-old immigrant boy will be very vulnerable and feeling very lonely, and obviously someone will take advantage of this, in this case, a doomsday cult. Then he got a new friends and a wife. That's the underlining message here. You will find a wife in the Jehovah Witness organization. And then we see this lady that was in a Christian domination for 30 years, and she said, well, I thought I knew a lot, but I really didn't know anything. Well, she probably felt that way, but I can tell you, you feel that way when you change from any domination to another one, because Jehovah Witnesses are focusing on their favorite scriptures. So if you go to Seventh-day Adventist and ask, what does Matthew 24:14 say, they will not know that by heart. But I can promise you they know a lot of scriptures that you don't know. And that will always be like that. Jehovah Witnesses have their favorite passages that are easy to remember, that you remember even as a child. Matthew 6:20. I start to forget them now. I'm out of the cult. But I was really good with the Bible when I was a witness. Really good. But when I left and started read, I still read the Bible now and then, but you read it with open eyes. You see, I really did not know anything. It was just a patchwork of a lot of this place and a lot of that place. And like I said, that's what's the one thing that woke me up really weird. If God wrote the Bible to explain what happened with us when we die, why should we go back and forth and take one scripture here and one scripture there? It doesn't make any sense. So the feeling when you become a Jehovah Witness that I learned so much, that's a true feeling. But you would get that same feeling from becoming a Mormon.
The Republic of Cuba is a chain of 1,600 islands and islets at the intersection of the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico. Cuba itself is by far the largest island in the chain, with one major city, Havana. Many are embracing the truth. Cuba is home to almost 95,000 publishers in 1,400 congregations.
So we're ending with a visit to our brothers in Cuba, and that's really nice. I'm going to show you that because you can see some really nice picture of paradise, because there is a paradise right here, right now, and that's the only paradise you'll get. So please go outside and enjoy it. But I will tell you a story from Cuba, and this is anecdotal, but an elder told it to me. He was visiting Cuba and he stayed there for a month and month and month as a need greater, and he told me a lot of funny stories, and I believe them. Because Jehovah Witnesses, they have kind of a different culture from place to place. And he said in Cuba, they used to go out and steal oranges. And like they described it, they said, well, everyone does, so also Jehovah Witnesses do it. So the elders would take a lorry, and then they would go out to a government-owned plantation and just fill up bags with oranges, and then distribute it to the members of the congregation. But what they did, because we are slightly better than everyone else, because they said we can do this because everyone else is doing it, and that's the way we do it in Cuba. Worldly people do this also. But the Jehovah Witnesses, they had a rule that only unbaptized publishers were allowed to do the actual stealing from the trees, while the witnesses were carrying it to the cars and the ministerial servants were lifting it up. And I got that story from a brother in good standing, and I think it's true. But that's just an anecdote, so. Maybe you noticed that this clip ended with the witnesses being gathered together and playing the guitar. And this is not the first time on this broadcasting when we see the witnesses gathering together, playing a guitar and singing kingdom melodies. And back in the day when I was witness, you were allowed to play guitar, and you were allowed to, if you had an instrument, you should preferably play kingdom melodies. But it wasn't a category of don't let it take too much time. It should not be our focus. Music should not be our focus. But now they are selling the idea of playing guitar together as a group all the time. And I think this is a part of the strategy to sell all the Kingdom Halls and have it like an online religion. That we're meeting in groups, watching, broadcasting, and then we have tea and we sing together. So, well, good for them. I hope they're having fun. So, I hope you like this rebuttal. It takes a lot of time. It takes about, I'm not kidding, it takes like 1 hour per minute to make this because I have to watch it over and over and over again. So if you like it, please subscribe to my channel because I put a lot of work in this. And just on another note is that, you know, the current crisis, it was really crappy month, March and April for me. So I had to start another channel to get a little income. So it's a hillbilly channel. It's called Goat Farming. It rhymes with Prince Charming, and I will leave the link in the description. So maybe you're not interested at all, but could you maybe please subscribe anyway, because I need 1,000 subscribers to start monetization and yeah, better ranking and stuff like that. So, but we had bingo today. Did you win? Someone must have met the monthly requirement of 90 hours. So please let me know in the description how many points you have and if this broadcast bingo is a good idea. If it's not, tell me and I will get rid of it. So, but I hope you like this video. I hope you are among my 144,000 subscribers. The ingathering is not complete yet, but the tower will fall when the ingathering is complete. So please subscribe to the channel and hit the new light notification bell and you will be notified every time Jehovah changes his mind. So, see you in paradise.